Yeah, I pushed the buttons, both of them, record and streaming. So let me know when we're good? Okay. Welcome to the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission meeting for January 27th, 2022. I have asked Commissioner McConkey to lead us in the pledge, so I'll turn the time over to him.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. Roll call. So Commissioners Anderson and Commissioner Ryan are both absent this evening. They had other commitments and they are excused. Other than that, we have a quorum present for the commission. And in attendance, we have Gina Grandpré from the Planning Department. Are you going to be doing both items? Okay. And then Nicolette Fike with the City Recorder's Office, Scott with the Engineering Department, and Ken Young with our Community Development Department in attendance for staff. The first item that we have is public input. We've set aside time for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues that are not listed as a public hearing on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Go ahead. So go ahead, come up to the podium, state your name and address.
Is there any way I could tap into the screens with an HDMI cable?
Is he able to
Attached to,
attach to the screen?
No, unless it's got like a flash.
Well, there goes my great PowerPoint I prepared for you guys. Well, I could do that, I guess. I just assumed it would speed up things a little bit, but the reason why I wanted to talk to the commission is related to accessory dwelling units. I'm sure that you guys have dealt with this quite a bit. I wanted to point out first legal concerns that I have with it, and then secondly, kind of interests of liberty that I see with it. And I come to you as someone who is a property owner in Saratoga Springs, as someone who has extensive legal background and training, and as someone who cares about the rights of our citizens. I probably didn't introduce myself. My name is Sam Peed. I live at 352 West Fox Hollow Drive. And I wanted to start with this holding from case law that says restrictive covenants and servitudes must generally be embodied in written instruments bearing the owner's signature. And this is a long-standing and well-accepted requirement of law. And as I'm sure the commission knows, and I'm going to talk about HB 82, when HB 82 came out, it had various legislative intent, one of which was to prevent a homeowners association from prohibiting the construction or rental of certain accessory dwelling units. And this was codified in Utah Code 57-8A-209. And the reason for this, and it was interesting that I heard the board talking a little bit about this, about the difficulty you expressed of finding housing. I believe it was for one of your children. And part of the reason for this new code section, and it's actually many code sections, was to give everybody an opportunity to get affordable housing. I think a secondary purpose there was to provide income for us in a time that's difficult for many. I don't know, the last time you went to the grocery store, I went a couple days ago, and I couldn't believe how much more expensive certain items were. And so when we look at this, it's with the lens of empowering landowners and homeowners rather than restrict them. But unfortunately, what happened was this statute that was meant to be a shield for homeowners has been used as a sword by homeowners associations. And unfortunately, I think the city has been involved in that. Specifically with my homeowners association, the Villages at Saratoga Springs, or Fox Hollow as it's known, our board asked, it's in their minutes, that asked that the exemption from rental restrictions be imposed on Fox Hollow. Now, this is in violation of the code, because if we look at Utah Code 57-8A-209, it states the ways in which an HOA can restrict rentals. They can do it by amending the CCNRs. This is the only way that an HOA is allowed to take away my right of having a rental that I would otherwise have in the bundle of sticks that are my property rights. Unfortunately, they had an end around this, and that's why I say it wasn't legal. And I don't know all of the details, but what I've been told is that they were contacted by the city and told, do you want your HOA to be in or exempted from these rental restrictions? And they took the extensive period of 2 hours to decide and elect to restrict rentals in our HOA. Now, that obviously, just in its plain terms, violates principles of due process for so many of us. None of us were told that this was going to be the case. None of us were told there was going to be a vote taken, none of those things. And they simply told the city, we want the restrictions. The city imposed it. It's on the FAQ for the city as well as for the maps, saying internal accessory dwelling units are not allowed in these areas. And I'm about done. Could I move the court for additional time?
Okay, that was 3 minutes. I'll give you 1 more minute if you can wrap up in a minute.
Okay. So basically what happened is the city has enabled the HOAs to go around having to amend the CCRs, which is the statutory requirement for rental restrictions. And by doing so, I think the city has set itself up for liability. They've interfered with the contract that I have with the HOA and enabled them to have this kind of backdoor thing. Now, I don't want this to get to litigation, and I've talked at length to my HOA. They're still reviewing it with legal counsel. Interestingly, they took no thought of talking to legal counsel before making the decision, but since I've called them on it, they're like, oh, we better talk to him. But I think the city is in a poor position here. I also think the method of contacting HOA boards without them having notice and comment is arbitrary on its face. I don't know what authority the board has, but I would ask the board to reverse, if it's capable, the Fox Hollows exemption from rentals at this time. I think it violates law. It's a backdoor method around it, and it also violates the principles of due process and other things that we simply didn't have in this matter.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I could probably suggest is that I know that the city's still reviewing that, and they're working on additional changes to the ADA. Is that correct?
Or ADU.
ADU, yeah, sorry.
Or IADU.
IADU is in our
actually
code.
Internal accessory dwelling unit. Just a real quick overview here. When this situation occurred previously, it was based on city council wanting to get some feedback and understanding of what the community would like to have in regards to being exempt from the requirement to allow for ADUs or not. And so that was one method that was chosen, just to contact the HOAs and say, hey, what do you want? At this point, I know there are discussions occurring that maybe we don't involve HOAs. We look at it from a grander perspective. And so the city council has asked us as staff to come back with some more information. They will be discussing it further. There are potential amendments to the IADU map. At this point, I should probably let you know that some of those potentialities include making it stricter or prohibitive throughout the community that is currently developed as much as possible. So that's just one of the possibilities, but currently whatever stands until the city council makes any amendments.
When you say stricter, what are you speaking about specifically?
Okay, so we're talking about, and sometimes the verbiage is a little bit not clear when we talk about it being exempt, and this is what the state has allowed the city to do, is to identify properties that would be exempt from the state bill requirement to allow for IADUs. So the city can identify up to 25% of its residential areas and say, these properties are exempt from the requirement to allow IADUs. So the city council has chosen to look at that and to apply that exemption as responsibly as they feel they want to do or feel is needed for Saratoga Springs.
Do they have the ultimate authority on how that is applied?
Yes.
Because, I mean, obviously, it makes more sense when we're talking high density or something, but simply contacting the HOAs is an election process with the boards, again, strikes me as arbitrary. And I don't know if I could meet with Mr. Donaldson or anyone from his office about it, but I would love to discuss that further.
That's probably the best thing to do at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next item. It's a business item for Canton Ridge West preliminary plat located approximately west of Meadowbrook Way. Julie Smith and Larry Mylar as applicants. Senior planner Gina Grand Prix will be presenting.
Is that on? Oh, there it goes. I'm going to sit here because I want to use the city map to show you some examples for this particular application. Mr. Myler and Mrs. Smith, if you can come up to this desk here to answer questions if the Planning Commission has questions. Canton Ridge West is part of the annexation of the Rushton property that was done a few years ago. You have reviewed and approved the Canton Ridge East project. Now we're going over to the second half of that annexation agreement and talking about Canton Ridge West, which is west of the Mountain View corridor, or the future Mountain View corridor. There's a lot going on with Canton Ridge. The 4th of January, the city council approved an annexation of property further west of this subdivision. And I want to put this up to give you an idea of where all of this is happening. So on the 4th of January, this portion right here, this little, I guess you could say island, was annexed into the city on the 4th of January by the city council with an annexation and development master development agreement. And this also includes some of the things that you saw in your staff report regarding Canton Ridge West. There's a lot of connectivity things going on in that development agreement. I want to get this out in the front so you can think about this as I go further into this presentation with Canton Ridge West. Mr. Myler has graciously fronted a lot of $10 million, according to the development agreement, for the construction and critical infrastructure for Foothill Boulevard and water infrastructure and storm drain. A lot of whatever that $10 million will help cover. This infrastructure is quite significant, and so I guess whatever comes first will that $10 million be applied to in this area in order for him to get the development going for his subdivision. Sorry, that was a mistake. This is Larry, Julie Smith is the applicant. Larry Myler is the landowner. I made a mistake on that, I apologize. The zoning from the first annexation and development agreement was done back in 2018, was by Fieldstone. They did an R110 zoning. And so this particular subdivision is done with 10,000, the minimum lot size, I believe, is 10,000 square feet. Now, they've done 83 lots here, and this is kind of, you see a lot of red lines. We met with Mark Christensen and the developer, and we wanted to make sure that a lot of these red lines were what was the most critical, because this is, going forward, we're trying to get this going for the applicant. So a lot of these red lines that you have seen on the plat in your in the staff report, they will be conditioned. A lot of it is, I want to say, cosmetic on the plat. So they will meet these standards. The final plat will ensure that, especially on the preliminary plat. The biggest issue that that engineering had come up with that would potentially change the structure of the subdivision, meaning removing lots or adding lots, the configuration of the subdivision, was the detention basin, which is up at the top here. That has been remedied, and engineering, you can see from the staff report that you received from engineering that was kind of our most critical thing. Everything else can be conditioned. And so a lot of these red lines that you see from engineering and from planning, again, is pretty cosmetic, and they will be done before, those corrections will be done before it even sees the council. So there's 83 lots in the Canton Ridge West. I just wanted to give you some of that background as you're making your decision for recommendation to the city council tonight. There's minimum open space, 83 lots, average of 10,000 square foot. The open space and amenities they are meeting, minimum of 3 units per acre. They have 2.12 units per acre, which is less than the minimum, but with the development to the west, it averages out. So just take that into consideration, and the reason we have proposed approval of this preliminary plat is because of the further development that the developer will be doing further west. The preliminary plat, again, some of these mistakes have been remedied and will be as such. This was just a minor error as far as the preliminary plat on the front page. But as you can see, that the detention basin and the open space, one thing similar to what was done on the east side, you remember the trail that was done along the Foothill Boulevard, similarly is to be required on the west side. So eventually there will be a frontage road along this area here that is the west frontage road of Mountain View Corridor. Along that, our master trails plan requires a trail to go run along this. So this open space, open parcel B, will be part of this open space. This is off, this 30-foot trail easement is an off-site improvement. So therefore it's not required to be on the preliminary plat. However, it is required to be within the construction drawings because this is a requirement, and they have provided that information. Down here at this park here, so similarly to what we did with Canton Ridge East is the park. If you remember correctly, let me put this up here so you can see. Down here at the Canton Ridge East project, I scrolled in way too fast. Do you remember the park that's slated down for here, down at the bottom? They connected that to Fitness Park in order to get the acreage, the 5 acre minimum for a city park. They connected those two in order to dedicate this to the city. It is under, similarly is being done for Canton Ridge West. This parcel C is a park that they will be developing. They will be dedicating that to the city because of the future development to the west. I'm going to pull this up. This is the overall concept plan. So you can see here that they have the power line, this power line park. Obviously, it is a lot bigger park, and therefore it is contiguous with this parcel C, and therefore the city will be able to accept that as a city park. It's all in stages, and with future development, this is locked in with a development agreement. And so those things will be done accordingly. So just so you're aware, the acreage obviously doesn't meet the current standard, but with future development, it will. And so the city has given that exception as far as staff is recommending that to happen. They are offering approximately 4.2 acres of open space, landscaping. They will meet the 20%, the trees, drought tolerant as required by the landscaping. You can see here that this landscaping is down here at the park as well as along the trail corridor and this parcel B, and then limited access for the detention basin. Just to show open space and landscaping, you can see where they have provided quite a few amenities. This has also changed a little bit. There will be some parking, a little notch of parking here, as we've discussed in previous meetings with administration. So with this, the lotting detail meets what is required by our code, as well as the amenity points that they will be providing. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council approval for this application. The applicant is here. If you have any questions, you may ask.
Would you state your name and address for the record? The business address is fine.
Julie Smith, we're in Pleasant Grove. I'm not sure.
That's good enough.
Address, we just barely moved into our office.
Okay. So did you have anything you would like to add to the presentation?
I would just like to thank Gina and staff and engineering. I actually worked for Fieldstone when this first started, so I've been at this for about 4 years. So all this time, we've been working with Gina and staff on this, and it's been a long time coming, and I realize that the staff is overworked and things are taking a lot longer than they used to, and we appreciate staff moving this forward without having all the I's dotted and T's crossed, and the remaining items are cosmetic and can be done quite easily. So we do appreciate staff moving this forward at this time.
I'll turn this over to the commission for questions or comments. Commissioner Kilgore.
I can't read my paper with my glasses on, and then I can't see you without my glasses on. and mine are progressive, so. This is an administrative process, so I always ask for the record, does the applicant agree to comply with all the conditions in the city planning staff packet?
Yes.
Thank you for that. So, yeah, there are a number of red lines, at least in the packet that we received, and even if they can be resolved easily, I still have to ask about it because, again, as an administrative process, we have to just make sure that it will comply very, very soon.
Yes.
So one of the questions, or non-compliance, had to do with the sewer issues. I was wondering if the sewer issues have been figured out.
Yes.
Yes, they have.
They have? Oh, terrific. Okay. And then, sorry, let me get to my pages here. For fencing, it said fencing does not comply. Please explain, what the concept
That
is.
actually in the most recent review that was, or resubmittal that was submitted, has been taken care of. So they do meet that, and I apologize, I didn't mark that as complies.
Okay.
But the fencing does comply with the code as far as open space fencing, I think was the biggest part of that, along, let me pull up the landscaping, here along this area in parcel B. As you can see, that open space fencing has been added.
Okay.
So I just didn't mark it off on the checklist, the plan review checklist, but it has been changed.
Okay, and then right below that, drought-tolerant plants can comply. Is that just another one?
Yes, they did. Again, that has been addressed as well.
Okay. And then a couple pages after that, layout and dimensions of proposed lots with lot area in square feet.
Yes, so as you can see here on the lot detail, I don't think I can scroll in to see that. It's in your staff report, but that has been added.
Okay, great. And then mailboxes can't comply.
That is a condition of approval. They still need to point out on their plat where the mailbox will be located.
Okay, and that's not going to be a
No,
problem,
that's an
right?
easy deal.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's several pages with, oh, yeah, it's actually all those with the red line, all the red lines, so about those issues.
Yeah, again, these are what I like to call cosmetic because they're easy fixes. And it's basically to deal with the final plat. So it still is, the final plat has been submitted for, I believe it's been submitted. No, that was for a different plat, sorry.
Or C.
That's for the next application. Once the final plat is submitted, yes, those things, well, this is all of these red lines are going to be addressed prior to the city council meeting. So yes, to answer that, but they will get reviewed again during the final plat process.
Okay, and then did I mishear you? Did you say, so the landscaping is fine, but in your presentation, did you say that not all the open space requirements have been met, but they will be met in the future development?
No, so the open space has been met for this subdivision.
Okay.
However, and I may have misspoke on that. Parcel C does not meet the requirement of 5 acre minimum for the city to take over that park as a city park and own and maintain that park. So after speaking with Jeremy Lapp and the Public Works Director, administration, and the applicant, we decided to do the same thing with this as we did in Canton Ridge East, which is they will dedicate parcel C to the city, and it will be, and the amenities and the park landscaping, all of that will be reviewed as if it's going to become a city park. With the condition that the HOA will maintain it until the Powerline Park in Brixton Park comes through and gets developed and is approved by the city during the inspection process.
Okay.
So there is going to be a connection, and instead of going back and requiring a plat amendment to change parcel C to dedicate it over to the city, we're saving that step as far as your time, the developer's time, because we have another slated park that connects to that parcel C.
Right.
So one of the main accesses to this Powerline Park is going to be here along this road,
Okay.
as well as parcel C. And so after having that discussion with everyone involved as far as on the staff level and administration, we determined that it would be best that we follow the same kind of exception that we did with Canton Ridge East, with that trail connecting to the South Park and so forth. So it just makes it a little bit smoother.
Okay. Yeah, I must have misunderstood because I thought you said they met the landscaping, but with the open space, they would meet it once the western part is developed. But I didn't think we could push, although you could move open space around in a one development, you can push them. You couldn't allow it to be pushed
Right.
into a future development.
No, I
so that's what I thought
apologize.
I heard.
I misspoke.
But apparently that's not an issue.
Their required open space
20%.
was 20%, yeah, and
that's-
it was, oh gosh. So their open space is 3.55 acres, and their requirement was like 4 something, I think.
So we meet the landscaping, but we don't meet the requirement for the city to own it until future plans.
Yeah.
But, and that's why you'll have an agreement in place, so. Yeah.
Right, so
Okay.
this strip of land right here gives them an open space credit. So it applies, this acreage applies to the equivalent open space that's required, even though it's not part of the plat. It's an off-site improvement, and so they do get open space credit for that.
Okay.
So I guess, yes, they didn't meet it, but they do because of the off-site improvements.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So I did misspeak on that. I do apologize.
No, I'm glad I got the clarification.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, well, at this time, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the Canton Ridge West preliminary plat located at future Foothill Boulevard based upon the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Barton. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Commissioner McConkey. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Looks like that passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a business item for North Lake Meadow preliminary plat located approximately 225 North, 1500 East. Keaton Morton is applicant, senior planner Gina Grand Prix to present.
Here's Keaton right here. So North Lake Meadow is up in the northeast part of the city. This was recently rezoned to R19, if you remember back a couple months ago. It is similar to the low-density residential of R19 that Pirelli has. And so it meets the general plan and the zoning for that. This is kind of a unique situation as well. It does have 21 lots. Normally, we would see that this would connect here down to 145 South. However, with 145 eventually becoming a UDOT road, it was determined that we did not want this access here. They really didn't meet between the 1700 road and that intersection with all of the intersections that have come along that right of way. It didn't meet the length, the distance between intersections. And so we asked that the developer make this a cul-de-sac. He was low enough in lots that he was able to do that with the one access. And so it does access from 1700 here on the east of the subdivision. His open space, it is a minimum of 3 units per acre, which he does meet that. The preliminary plat, there are some red lines that you see in your packet. I didn't include them in this slide, but they're pretty minor. Again, going back to that, they're pretty cosmetic. They're simple details that will be fixed before recordation. That he has applied for a final plat, and that is under review. This here, the 30-foot right-of-way or easement, there is a meandering trail. You can see that he does meet the landscaping requirements. However, he doesn't meet the amenity points. And if you saw that in your staff report, he will have to pay some amenity points for to meet the amenity points within the open space. So he does meet the open space requirement and the landscaping. However, those amenity points, he's just off a little bit because this detention basin here runs along this area here. And so there's not a lot of place to put a playground or anything like that. So, but he does provide a hard surface connection here and along the frontage of the subdivision. Just to show the calculations, and 469 linear feet of trail is what he's providing. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council for this preliminary plat.
Do you have anything you would like to add, Could you state your name for the
Yeah, Keaton Morton, 11219 South, Crescent Oak Way, Sandy, Utah. Yeah, this has been, Gina's been great, staff's been great to work with. There's been a lot of complications on this project. Obviously, I've tried to make it larger. I know the city would prefer larger subdivisions coming in, and I've reached out to all the other landowners, but unfortunately, sometimes can't change their opinions. But yeah, there's a lot of, we tried to keep the access off of 145, mainly just because we didn't want, like Gina said, that road will be hopefully sent over to UDOT in the future. So, but yeah, just want to thank you guys for all your support and your guys' help on this, and then staff as well. They've been great to work with.
Thanks. Gina, could you get us a bigger picture of where this is exactly? When you're talking about 145, I'm kind of confused.
So it's over by, so do you know where Pirelli is?
Yeah.
Sorry, this
think
isn't
so.
catching up. So Willow Glen is here. Your Drywood Meadow is over here. Sunrise Academy here, and then North Lake Meadow is over here.
And so the green road, the green one is
Is
the one that's.
145, correct, which turns into Saratoga Road.
Okay.
Or Pony Express. So eventually, Pony Express will extend out here down to
Well,
2300.
And then
and-
to American Fork, right?
It's not going to extend all the way out to American Fork. That's not under the UDOT's plan. However, they are going to connect it to 2300 over here. And so Pony Express, I mean, some of it has already been designed that meets up. This portion from the river over to Redwood Road has been designed and is currently being under construction. So this, used to be Saratoga Road. That used to be the main, the old
way to get-
old way. But Pony Express is being built by North Shore. So eventually, UDOT will be taking over this road. I mean, it's years in the making before that ever happens. But from a planning perspective, we have to take that into consideration. And so UDOT doesn't have jurisdiction over this road. But Jeremy Lappin, the Public Works Director, of course, looking into the future as far as because of the development to the west, brought this up early on in the development as far as the UDOT regulation for the distance between major intersections. And so there's this intersection here with Pirelli, and then it didn't match up. And so we asked the developer to do a cul-de-sac here instead, and have the one access because it was only 21 lots. And so they did that, and this is the design of the subdivision. Obviously, eventually there will be development here. They'll connect into Pirelli here. So it is unlikely, that if this property were to ever develop, that we would allow for it to access 145. Even though UDOT isn't regulating this road, we still have to consider those accesses as far as public roads go.
Okay. I will open this up for the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Kilgore.
Do you want me to go back? Sorry.
So again, this is an administrative process, so I always like to get on the record that the applicant's willing to comply with all the conditions in the staff report.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. I was going to ask, could you show where the nearest public park would be that residents can go to?
So you're going to see the nearest one is, let me pull up the map, sorry. The nearest one that you're going to see, as far as public park, you've got private parks here within Drywood, but your biggest public parks will eventually be the marina here. But you'll have Jordan Promenade, Riverside Park here. Patriot Park is the current closest park. So, I mean, there are master plans for parks that are in the works, but as far as public parks, Patriot Park would be and Neptune, or not Neptune, sorry.
Inlet.
Inlet Park. I guess Inlet Park would be the closest. As far as the biggest one, it's going to be Patriot Park, but Inlet Park would be the closest one.
Families want to go for a walk, where would they go currently, once that neighborhood is built?
Sorry, say that again.
So, if they want to go for a walk, take their kids out to a park, currently, once that neighborhood is built, they have
North
to get in
Shore.
a car and they have to go.
Right. So there is a trail down here through state lands. So this is a state land area that is adjacent to the marina. So this, essentially, there's no access down to this trail unless you come over here through Lehigh. And then there is this trail that is currently accessible, or they can come over here and access it here. It does come onto Saratoga Boulevard and then over to cross there. They can access the Jordan River Trail, but in order for them to access a public park, it is going to be get in their car. Until this is developed, until the marina is developed and there's access to the marina, they can access the trail over here to get at least to Saratoga Boulevard and over.
So in the southern part, of that development, yeah, right there. Is that a place, like if you want to walk your dog, is that someplace that's walkable for a dog to go?
Yeah, so this is part of the planning process, right? I mean, we have, in all of these little subdivisions, you'll see here with Pirelli, our cross-section for this road requires a meandering trail in front. Until these properties are developed, they won't, it's kind of, dead ends, right? However, yes, they can put, there's a couple benches here, they'll be able to walk along this frontage. However, to get over to this portion of the trail, until this property is developed, unfortunately, that's how growth works, right? Until those properties are developed. Surely, when these properties do develop, there will be those trail connections. Glenwood, if we go over here to Glenwood, or is it Glen?
Will Glenn.
Willow Glen, thank you. And Mountain Sunrise Academy, they also were required to put in that meandering trail. Eventually, all of these will cross. Freedom Cove is another subdivision that's coming in here. Mr. Morton is the developer on that as well. And that, again, will have that meandering trail. So Willow Glen and Sunrise Academy will have a connection here. However, there's going to be time before this is developed.
Yeah,
So-
and I do understand that. It's just that if we're going to allow points to be paid for, then, we're.
So
I'm just wondering
basically-
if we're hamstringing the residents who move there because we're allowing there not to be open space.
Right. So there is open space and it is equivalent, the access is there. As far as them paying in lieu of amenities, that money will go to other amenities somewhere else within the city. As the city it's needed. That's one of the reasons why we offer that payment in lieu option for developers. But I get your point and understand that. And I think it is eventually, eventually there is going to be all this cross connectivity. There's going to be a lot of connectivity in the city. And a lot of that reason is because we have master plans in place. A lot of cities have master plans. And I've seen a lot of different cities that have great master plans. Saratoga is one of the best ones that has and follows their master plans. And so these connections will eventually happen. And the city's trying to get some of them done sooner than later. I know administration is working on, the marina, trying to get a park there. So there is that interconnectivity. They have the open space, however, they don't have the amenities, so they do have the option to pay for those amenities in lieu of.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you
Commissioner,
for that
there's also,
explanation.
just so for your info as well, Lehigh is a huge master plan trail or park that they're building just on the east side of 1700. So just a little bit north of that.
Okay.
Lehigh owns about, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 acres over there. So there will be a huge major park there as well. So
Okay. And it's public?
yes, that will be public, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. No, I mean, I understand master plan and everything, but it doesn't help the residents if we're building something really nice in the south part of the city, right? So I'm just thinking about just those residents.
Yeah.
And if you had the amenities and the open space, then that's what you have. But if you're paying to not have them, then I just wanted to ask the question for the residents' sake. But yeah, okay, sounds good. I mean, especially, even if it's in Lehigh, if it's a public park, they have access to it, so that's great. I did want to ask a couple more questions on the, in the staff packet, because thank you, by the way, for getting a lot of these items to compliance before it reaches us. Even if it's, even if it takes a couple iterations and lots of colors, if it says complies, then we don't have to ask about it, so thank you for that. But there were a couple. So one was a data table. It said the data table can comply, and if you could explain what that's about.
Yeah, so it's an incomplete data table is what it is. Let me get back to the preliminary plat. So it doesn't have, let's see, where is it? This little data table, and you can see it better in your packet. It doesn't follow the exact standard that's required in our code. So it doesn't have it might have sensitive lands, but it should include sensitive lands. It should include several other items that aren't included here. So I had made that red line to make sure that that information gets in. It's also on our standard template, plat template, and so that has to be followed. They won't be able to record without it.
And that won't be a problem for the applicant to provide that data?
No, it's just an engineering easy fix for them, so.
Okay. And then, yeah, there was some missing info, I guess, on the red lines that you had.
Yeah, it's
So
just
same
missing
sort of thing?
information, right?
Okay. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Are there any other comments from the commission? I will entertain a motion at this time.
Where is it? I'll make the motion. I moved that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the North Lake Meadows preliminary plat located at 145 North and 1700 West based, excuse me, upon the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. This looks like it passed unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Has everyone had the opportunity to look at the minutes? It did look like Commissioner Kilgore had a change that he sent in. Did you get that? Yeah, it was just. Okay. Okay. Commissioner Barton, did you
I didn't
ring
push it.
in?
I didn't mean to.
Oh, okay.
There was nothing.
Did anyone else have any corrections they wanted to make? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes for January 13th of 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Commissioner McConkey. Do you have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, the minutes are approved. Commission comments. I just wanted to say that we had our first steering committee meeting for the new general plan. And I was excited that the members of the steering committee were all very exuberant. I was happy to see that we had the principal of the high school involved. And it was nice for him to offer the consultants the opportunity to go to a couple of the upcoming events so they could get public comment. That was really good. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Ken?
No, I just want to say here. I think it was a very successful meeting. We've got a good group, a good, healthy size, and a lot of participation, enthusiasm. So I think that will bode well for us as we continue on. I'll just add in my little pitch here for our next public meeting, or our first, I guess, public meeting, which would, in relation to the general plan, which is our next Breakfast with Planners event, which is March 8th. And so we would invite all of you to be a part of that. It'll be held this time at Talon's Cove Clubhouse. Give us a little more room and hopefully better acoustics from what we had last time. But we will have a session focusing on the general plan at that, but there will be two other discussions also. One will be on coming businesses and developments, and the other will be Ask a Question. So we'll have a panel of city officials there that can take whatever, hopefully whatever questions come up at that time. So 8:30 in the morning on March the 8th is when we'll be holding it.
Will we get electronic invitations? for that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's also caucus night, too, I found out, March 8th. That evening.
Night.
At night. So I'm glad it's in the morning. So those of us who attend that can go. All right, director's report. And that-
I had something as
Go
well.
ahead,
Yeah,
Commissioner McConkey.
I just was wondering, so when he talked about the legality of how this is all happening with the ADUs and stuff like that.
IADUs, yeah.
IAD, whatever, right? Can you just get back to us a little bit with that after you have a conversation, just the legality of it all? Like, is that a thing that we need to worry about?
I'm happy to get back to you on it, and I do know that there is concern
Okay.
about the legality of it.
Okay,
So,
that's great. If you can get back,
but
that'd be awesome.
I'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner McConkey, did you have something?
Yeah, it's the same topic. I mean, I appreciate anything that's said and expressed. I mean, I feel very much, in fact, other cities I've spoken with, very much that this was thrown at us from the state. And we find ourselves scrambling to figure out how do we implement this in a fair manner and meet their maximum 25% exemption out of the IADU requirement. And it just became a very awkward consideration of where do you draw the line, how do you justify drawing the line, and there was just so much internal deliberation, and in our discussion, other cities have had some similar struggles and difficulties trying to make sense of it in a way that is reasonable, and I'm grateful for and glad that we're continuing to pursue some better reasoning, I guess. I mean, I attended the city council meeting discussion on one of those, and it's just difficult to know how to fairly draw those lines and how to determine where and how without just covering the whole city and saying they're allowed everywhere, because that certainly would not be desirable either, but our hands are tied. So figuring out how to untie our hands carefully and reasonably and legally is definitely a challenge.
City Council has on their agenda on the 15th a discussion on proposed amendments to the map.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'll make sure we watch or attend or.
Yeah.
All right, any other commission comments before I move on to director's report? Director's report. Do you have anything from the director? Oh, but you can have more time.
I'm good.
I keep. Okay, Gina, do you have anything from David?
No, we don't.
All right, so the next thing is, do we need to go into a closed session tonight? All right. Then we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting until our next meeting, yes.
I just wanted to commend the council the commission for the details the discussion that you have. I had a meeting with several city attorneys earlier today, and an issue has arisen in one of the cities where the recording of the meeting has been lost, and the minutes were not as detailed. And so I just want to commend Nikki for keeping detailed minutes and you all for approving those, keeping those. And it's actually arisen as an issue because there's a dispute now with one of the developers related to what was said and intended at the meeting. And the only thing they can point to is the minutes. And so just want to commend you for your discussion and commend Nikki for the way she's keeping the minutes.
Thanks for that. All right, we will stand adjourned until our next February scheduled meeting.